thank you, Don, for inviting us to be here. I'm Chris Miller. I live in the 8th District. I've lived in this part of the world for my entire life. I grew up in Holland Hills, spent my boyhood years birding in Dyke's Marsh, and moved on to other things. I do a lot of work in Virginia, I do a lot of work across the state, and also nationally. I had the honor of knowing Don when he was Lieutenant Governor, and during his race for governor, and I can assure you that there's no candidate who understands the Commonwealth of Virginia better. He understands land use, he understands transportation, he understands the environment, and he's one of the few politicians I know who've actually hiked the Appalachian Trail. he can practice what he preaches, and it's at a gut level. Don once gave a speech at the Piedmont Environmental Council annual meeting where he expressed his understanding that we can grow as a state, we can grow as a nation without destroying the land and natural resources that we have, and that in fact we have to do more to protect them. Larry Schweiger, who's going to introduce Don, is another old friend and old colleague. Larry and I have worked together for 2 decades, both in his capacity as a director at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, and then later as head of the biggest effort on climate change at the National Wildlife Federation. And I can tell you that Larry knows more about how local, state, national, international things all fit together. So for Larry to be here behind Don is globally significant, and I think a real testament to the concern and the understanding that Don has for what we face as a country in the next few decades. So, Larry Schweiger.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Chris and I have known each other for a very long time, as Chris pointed out, and I want you all to know, just a comment about Chris, that he has, in my mind, one of the most effective land conservation programs in the country. He's done a tremendous job, not just getting easements and protecting lands, but also being involved in the political apparatus of Virginia to ensure that the highways and other projects are really consistent with the overall vision of the region. And it's a real model for the country. And when I was on the advisory board of the National Land Trust Community, I saw that in Chris's work and have long admired his efforts. It's a real privilege for me to be here, Don, with you to support your efforts to become a member of Congress. I have to say that I have watched your career when you were Lieutenant Governor, and the great work that you have done for such a long time for this region. And I had an opportunity to visit Don and Megan in Switzerland when they were working there as ambassadors and really doing a great job representing our nation in a wonderful country like Switzerland. But the thing that really impressed me about Don was his extreme knowledge of climate change and its impact on Switzerland, the Swiss Alps, and the impact not just there but around the world. And I learned later of his involvement with the governor and with Governor Kane on the Climate Advisory Committee and his work particularly on transportation. It's a real important issue for me personally. I see the changing climate. We're standing here near waters that are tidal. We sometimes forget that they are tidal waters, but as the climate changes, as the sea level rises, this region is going to be much more vulnerable into the future, and we need to keep that in mind. So the work on climate change is extraordinarily important. And I can tell you, having worked with Congress for more years than I'd like to admit, that we see a real need for leadership in Congress, a leader like Don who understands that we need to work across the aisle, that we need to find collaboration, we need to find solutions to real pressing problems. And we don't have that in Congress right now, to be really honest with you. You know, if you look at what's happened in the House this year, we have retirements of 2 of the most important members, with Waxman and also with John Dingell retiring. And so Don needs to be in Congress. We need to help him get there, and I'm really pleased to support his efforts in that direction. So Don, it's with great pleasure I turn it over to you and say best wishes, and I look forward to seeing you in Congress.